Greetings. How is everybody? So glad you're here today, just for a brief conversation about servant leadership. As we get started, I wonder what thoughts cross your mind about the leaders in your past. When we hear terms like servant leadership, the actual meaning sometimes just gets lost in the buzz. Everybody uses the term, but what does it actually mean in a leadership role? What does it mean to managers? What does it mean to individual performers who are natural leaders? What does servant leadership actually mean? Today I want to spend some time sharing examples and contrasts between traditional command and control leadership approach and servant leadership. Does it sound like a great term that sells books and really doesn't apply? Maybe a few examples would help us all to decide where our style falls on the leadership spectrum, with one end being complete command and control, and the other being pure servant leadership. I don't really believe every situation puts us at one end or the other. I think we all move around depending on what the situation calls for. That may be your experience, maybe not. So even the best leaders will move across the spectrum depending on the situation. What is necessary to handle the situation? It's an important question for all of us. So the variations are not supposed to resemble inconsistency, but there are times when we need to act faster than we really want to in the moment. A few situations where polished and thoughtful leadership approaches are rarely present include catastrophic mistakes that put people or property in danger. That's one situation where you're going to see somebody who's normally very balanced, very servant-oriented, grab the reins and make a decision. Another situation is a system failure that requires expensive consultants to fix it. And this happens more than we really want to admit. And it's not just large corporations that can have these failures. And the other one I was really thinking about were customer situations that demand executive involvement. Now, as a business owner, executive to you may be you. And that's perfectly fine. If you have a key account that's on the line, you might have to jump in a different way than you ever have before. So the worst situations we can imagine in business call for authority that exceeds most people in the organization. So it kind of eliminates anybody who might be able to handle today. We have to get the highest possible position involved. So the approach might seem extreme in the moment, but a great recovery will help most people to understand why the action was taken. Now, again, if we go back to business ownership, it could be external factors like the bank, the attorney, the accountant, all of the people that in a big organization are internal. They still can be involved in a big situation. Now, in one of my earliest corporate positions, we had a system situation that was breaching the contract. And the reason it was breaching the contract was because the system was not up the right percentage of the time. So we'd come in the morning and the system had been down 3 times. What's the problem? Well, we had this big meeting and this manager stepped in and grabbed the whole thing. And I thought, wait a minute. We have technical people. What happened? So I went to her and I asked her, I said, I'm not trying to be disrespectful. I just would like to know why you stepped in so soon. She said, so soon? This has been going on for 3 weeks. And I said, granted, but we haven't known about it. To me, the technical people should have been involved. So she said she tried to get this, big gun tech guy to take care of it. And he wouldn't do it. He was insubordinate. She could have fired him. And she stepped in. But we could not see the series of events that led us to the point where it was all hands on deck, let's find the problem. The real problem happened to be a customer who was basically banging on the system. The system shouldn't have come down, but she found a trapdoor in the online system. Okay, so we fixed it and we went on. Now, in that situation, should the leader have told us everything? I don't think so. I don't think she needed to. There are times when leaders have to be managers. You grab the situation and you take over, even if it's misinterpreted, because if you don't fix the situation, nobody's going to have a job. Now, people, customer, business. It's a triangle. You always try to keep the three sides equal. Sometimes you have to choose one of the three to save the other two. So servant leadership looks very different in various situations. Individual leaders are going to handle the daily events with varying levels of involvement. It happens all the time. Some know everything that happens, honestly, everything. Others stay back from the details entirely. They're not real sure what happened today. Both styles are acceptable until the routine is interrupted. Whenever you're unsure of a leader's handling of a situation, ask more questions. Which aspect of the business was at risk? The people? That's the employees. That's the key of the whole thing, because without the employees, how are the customers taken care of? Was the customer at risk? Not just losing the customer, because that puts the business at risk, but the customer's business. If you're a supplier to others, you understand what I'm talking about. Or was your business at risk? You have to determine which one of the three, two of the three, maybe all three, are at risk in a situation. Could anybody else actually handle the fallout and get the best results? Now, here's something that I think is kind of interesting. It's intriguing for all of us who've been through multiple situations. Somebody takes action and my guard goes up. Who do they think they are? Now, in that situation, I have to stop and I have to say, no, wait a minute. Are my feelings hurt? Is my ego bruised? Now, in some situations, we got to step back and remember who's responsible when something goes awry. If it's not me, I have to take a breath. And I have to say, okay, do what you need to do. If I'm responsible, I better step up and do something, because that's what everybody else is expecting me to do. And it's really important that we do that. So servant leaders are aware that misinterpretation of our actions is completely possible. Trust is essential when a problem arises. So you may have feelings in one situation. Did the leader act appropriately? Usually the best way to know if they did is to evaluate the outcome. How did we come out of this? Did we recover? Did the business recover? Is the bank account okay? Is the accountant freaking out? Is the lawyer freaking out? Those people are important parts of this to tell you how you came out of it. Maybe we don't like the method, but time will tell if the solution brought about the desired result. Leaders take responsibility for quick actions and the fallout. Sometimes the fallout is very simply morale. I can live with a morale problem for a couple of days. It can't last very long. But what I can't handle is a system crashing and never coming back. And a business dying because I didn't do what I was supposed to do. So following the response to the problem, we can evaluate. How did the leader address the team? Was blame placed on one person openly? We don't ever want to see that from a servant leader. Was the focus on the work and carefully investigated? Did we find what the real problem was? I've been through a few of these. Sometimes the best way to investigate it is to turn the people who actually do the work loose to find out what happened. Leaders know how to speak precisely to avoid the blame game. We have to watch our words. Unfortunately, there are people who are in positions of really management, they're not even leadership, who look for somebody to blame. I've only been through that once. It's not productive. Placing blame on somebody, you're basically labeling them the problem. That's not fair. Now, great leaders are going to set aside the blame and look for ways to adjust to prevent the same problem from happening again. So in excellence, I'm not talking about perfection. Excellence is inspiring the team, and yet some managers believe that one mistake cancels out all efforts. I only had one manager that ever did that. She demanded perfection, and the team absolutely avoided her. She was considered dangerous to all of us. Servant leaders know that perfection is a dream, if not a myth. Whenever mistakes are made, the greatest leaders observe in silence. The team will determine what went wrong and ask for assistance in the right places. If you jump in too early, it's going to look like blame. As leaders, our role is to investigate and ask more questions. In the wake of any given situation, we can learn a great deal from our own emotions. Pause for a moment, see how you feel. Are you angry that somebody stepped in? Are you relieved? Do you feel trusted? Or do you feel run over? Our emotional reactions are going to vary. We can learn two completely opposing lessons. How to handle similar solutions in the future, because we watched a great leader. Or how not to offend the entire team with our actions in similar situations. Maybe a novice leader, maybe somebody who's being a manager and should be a leader. Now here's something surprising. One leader can take the exact same action as another, and your emotions are going to be exactly opposite. For example, a leader who jumps in and takes over can offend the entire team. A different leader can take the exact same steps and the team feels supported. What's the difference? Trust and relationship. We build relationships in between the unexpected events and disasters. We all have people like this in our lives. They show up in the disasters. And they're not a lot of help, and we don't trust them. So as leaders, we've got to have trust, because then when you're called upon to handle a big situation, the team falls in right behind you, and they will do anything for you. So how do we nurture those relationships when everything's running smoothly? Ask more questions. Find out how the team is feeling about various duties and the tools available. When everything is running smoothly, the servant leader will listen and move the obstacles for those responsible for the daily routine. Become that servant leader without having to guess how to do that. Ask the questions that help you to find the roadmap. As always, thank you for listening. Thank you for being here. I wish you the absolute best. Have a great day.